Welcome back, Spurs fans, to Casa De Spurs. I'm your host, Trace Ronning, joined by Stephen Hale, who's rocking a sweet hat, sweet hoodie. Stephen, the Spurs are 2-1.
Yeah, how about that, Trace? How does that make you feel?
I don't know if I expected it. I feel pleasantly. I feel pleasant. I just think I feel pleasant about it. If I had to give you one word, it would be pleasant.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Not boding well for Team Tank out here, but I mean, it's been 3 fun games of Spurs basketball. Can we say that?
Right, and I don't think I watched 3 fun games of Spurs basketball until the bubble last year. I mean, the bubble, there was 8, maybe somewhere between 6 and 8 fun bubble games, but the previous 60 whatever were all kind of a drag. So anyway, you slice these first 3 games, at least it was entertaining again.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. There's a lot to be said about what is coming together with this team. One thing that I think you and I hammered home pretty much last year was the lack of identity for this team. It just seemed like last year just really seemed like a gap year. It just felt like we were some disgruntled millennial who took a gap year to go backpack Europe or something. Like that was kind of like the version of the Spurs that we got. And now we're starting to see a little bit of an identity take shape. There's some kinks to be worked out as they establish this identity. But there's some real like encouraging signs that have come out of these first 3 games. Trace, and I'm kind of just excited I find myself looking forward to the next Spurs basketball game.
Yeah.
And last year I felt like it was like, oh, there's another one.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have to do it again?
This is only game 32. You're telling me there's 50 more of these?
There's more? No. Yeah. So it's encouraging to be back in that type of fandom for the same.
Yeah. I think I might make a slight tweak to your metaphor. The way I saw the Spurs last year was a post-college student who didn't take a year abroad. They took a year and just sat in their parents' basement clinging on to their glory years while wasting away and gaining 40 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, we can go with that too. We are known for our metaphors on this podcast.
That's right. I would like to. So in these first 3 games, we've seen some interesting performances individually, and I think probably, Spurs fans have done all the reading they can do on game recaps. But I think it'd be fun to kind of talk about some of the players and what we've seen out of them these first few games.
Yeah.
Maybe let's start with, do we want to start with someone that let's start with Lamarcus Aldridge, because he's always a fun conversation starter. He'll get the juices going. Lamarcus Aldridge, yeah, he's been up and down, mostly down, I think. But I mean, the biggest problem, like they were able to overcome bad Lamarcus for 2 games. Well, I mean, if you just look at the stats overall, in game 1, he had like 17 points. It wasn't like a total wasted night, but I don't know that anything he did was special because he's Lamarcus Aldridge. Like maybe your average 6'11" guy could have also gotten 17 points in that game. What I really noticed, and this kind of goes for DeMar a little bit too, but when you lose a 3-point game to the Pelicans and you have $54 million worth of salary that scores like a total of
not a lot of points.
5? No, 12 points. Sorry, I was looking at 5 field goals, 12 points. Yeah. That's going to be a problem. DeMar saved the night a little bit with 10 assists, which that equals a lot. But Lamarcus did not save the night with anything. So 3 games of Lamarcus. What's your take?
Yeah, he had a big credit where credit is due, because I went criticizing Lamarcus Aldridge on the Twitter app, and of course everybody's like, whatever. He had a rebound and a putback at the end of the Raptors game. Okay, so he did. He got a rebound and put back at the closing seconds of the Toronto game. It was good. Other than that, we haven't seen much. I think what stood out to me is really how unplayable he was in the Pelicans game. Like it was, he didn't play in the fourth quarter. No, and it was so glaringly obvious. The Pelicans put Lamarcus Aldridge and Lonnie Walker in a screen and roll with Brandon Ingram and Steven Adams. Now, Steven Adams is your boy, and we saw That aside from, this is a Spurs podcast, but if I'm a Pelicans fan, I'm really looking forward to the screen and roll possibilities with Brandon Ingram and Steven Adams. Lonnie Walker played, I thought, immaculate defense on Brandon Ingram for the majority of that second half. And he's given up 4 or 5 inches, maybe a little bit more than that. But Lamarcus just was not interested in helping Lonnie in that screen and roll. And they got destroyed on it. And it was so like it happened repeatedly. And of course, Jakob was also not coming out to hedge and protect a little bit on that. And anytime that the Pelicans did, they're getting a dive for Steven Adams at the rim. Credit to Coach Popovich, who ended up pulling Lamarcus Aldridge and putting Rudy Gay on Steven Adams in that screen and roll, and that helped to slow it a little bit. But I was so shocked that Lamarcus it was a combination of things. He looked old, he looked out of shape, he looked slow, he looked uninterested, like the effort wasn't there. I thought game 3 of the 2020-2021 NBA season looked like one of Lamarcus's worst games in a Spurs jersey. There was next to nothing on the defensive end. He's still trying to figure out what he's going to be offensively. I think what we are seeing here is the difference between a guy who is a knockdown 3-point shooter versus a guy who can shoot a 3, and they're literally asking him to please shoot more of them. It's not a strategy that's working, and he has not found his shot yet in 3 games. Granted, it's 3 games. It's not 33 games, Trace. I understand that, but I'm starting to wonder if this is going to hurt Lamarcus's trade value right now. I'm starting to wonder if there's benefit to just saying, let's put him on the bench, let's find a trade package for him, and let's not ruin it by actually playing him and showing people that he's not actually Lamarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, I mean, or because there's no way with this team to play to Lamarcus's strengths without destroying everything else.
Yeah,
that's a big problem for there are probably enough GMs out there who could still remember what Lamarcus Aldridge is good at and imagine him in their system. But I totally agree, and I had the same thought the other night when I was just like, if this keeps up, we're just going to be stuck with $27 million of lead at the end of the bench. I don't know. Right. There's nothing, and it was hard to watch the Pelicans game without especially me, without just imagining how. I think Steven Adams would fit great on this team if you had him instead of, and their salaries were actually like there was actually
within
a world where they could have traded like value wise. I mean, I'm sure I would throw in a pick or 2 for Steven Adams if that meant that 5 years of Steven Adams. Yeah, he's not old. He's a beautiful man. Just love that hair. Love that. Just he would look great in silver and black. And not to go on in this, but he wrote in his book that he wanted to be a Spur. He wanted to play for Greg Popovich so bad. And when he finally got to play the Spurs, he said after the game he ran over and hugged Greg Popovich and sniffed his hair because he was so excited. Seriously, he sniffed his hair. That was one of his highlights of the game.
Are we getting to a territory right now though, Trace, where it's like I don't know what realistically you're going to get for Lamarcus Aldridge. I don't know what that trade package is, whether it's him straight up or whether you attach an asset to him. So I'm worried we're getting to this point with Lamarcus Aldridge where you kind of go, look, man, you're going to be Nick Batum in Charlotte. We're not going to use you, and we're going to just wait until your contract falls off the books, and we'll thank you for your time and wave at you. Because they're not better with him on the court, and they're not increasing his trade value because he stinks right now. He's not a part of their future. Like they're not. I don't think the Spurs are going to benefit from signing him. You just paid Jakob Poeltl, and it's kind of time to see what he is. This might be like the best case scenario for Lamarcus Aldridge with the Spurs might be just plain old simple addition by subtraction. You're getting better by not playing him. And That sucks for him. He has been, he's had a good career. He's had a career most guys would envy, but he finds himself in a situation that's just not for him. And I don't know realistically what are you are you gonna get a second round pick for him and another expiring contract? Like you're not getting a piece for him. I don't think you're gonna get a first for him. Like I don't know what teams out there going, we're willing to give up a first round pick for an expiring contract in Lamarcus Aldridge, unless you're attaching somebody. I know I made my predictions that DeJounte Murray would be traded.
DeJounte Murray?
Yeah, and then of course the guy went out and listened to our podcast, and he's played great for the first 3 games. So yeah. I don't know what you do with him. I think you're literally going to have games like the Pelicans where you say, we can't play this guy. Sit down.
Yeah. I think the best case scenario if Lamarcus Aldridge finishes this season as a Spur is that they're a entertaining team that loses a lot, because if you win too many games with Lamarcus Aldridge, you're gonna be stuck with a pick that's not, it's not something that you want for a rebuilding team. And yeah, it's just, and if there's no trade partner, like you said, like we're not going to just trade for another expiring deal just to not have Lamarcus Aldridge anymore. And where is this team going? And the only way that it would be worth it is if, there's some sort of injury and a team is like, well, we'd be good if we didn't have this injury, and maybe Lamarcus Aldridge can fill that hole if they're desperate enough.
Right. I mean, like, here's your scenario, and this is completely made up. I don't have any sources, but pretend that the Los Angeles Clippers they start working this thing out and they get it together, right? And things are starting to come around, and think of them as like a 3 seed or a 4 seed, and we're approaching the trade deadline. And then a guy like Serge Ibaka goes down, and the Clippers are looking at this going, we're right there. We're on the cusp. We really need Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to be Paul George. Okay, let's go get Lamarcus Aldridge at the trade deadline. Like you're almost, if you're the current governor for Lamarcus Aldridge, you're almost hurting that another team has a injury and they need that plug and play guy. Like he's going to fill in for a guy like a Serge Ibaka. He's going to fill in for a guy like a Marc Gasol. He's going to fill in for a guy like that who is, when a team is like a piece away and they can get him for cheap. I don't think that there's just a huge market for him, and he's doing himself no favors, Trace, to raise his trade value. And I think he's out of shape. I think he's coming to camp out of shape, and people keep comparing this to like his injury, like his shoulder injury. And I'm like, bro, you could get on the treadmill, bro. I mean, you can run. Like, why are you gassed? Why are you gassed halfway through the first quarter? That's not a good thing. So I don't know. I don't want to talk about Lamarcus Aldridge anymore. He bums me out.
Okay. I will ask you one question before we move on, only because you brought up the Clippers, but do you think Lamarcus and Kawhi Leonard said more than like 5 words to each other the entire time they were both on the Spurs?
I don't know. I mean, I always think back on that, and I'm like, Kawhi was there. Like, he had to have known that Lamarcus was going to come to the team, right? Like, right. There had to have been some discussion about what was happening. But it was also like, as soon as everything got sour, like, Kawhi Leonard was just not, I don't know. He wanted out of a team that had Lamarcus Aldridge on it. Yeah. He wasn't trying to stay. Right. So whatever code they passed back and forth between each other wasn't beneficial.
wasn't good. Let's talk about Keldon Johnson next, because that's a bright spot, and I'm happy to. I'm incredibly excited to see who Keldon Johnson plays defense, or who he's matched up against on defense against the Lakers in the next game. But in the first 3 games, I'm so excited. I mean, first of all, I didn't even think he was going to be playing in these first 3 games until like 2 hours before tip-off, when they announced that he was in the starting lineup. So incredible. He's been everything that I think we hoped he could be at this point, and I think he's going to get better, especially if he hangs around the starting lineup playing 30 minutes a night. Yeah. I mean,
he's fabulous.
I still feel like, I know he's not a rookie. Yeah. I'm sorry, I lost you for a second. I know he's not technically a rookie anymore, but I feel like this is a little bit of Pop, like, just relenting on his unwillingness to play young guys.
Yeah, like in previous years, Keldon would probably not be playing 30 minutes a night in the starting lineup. So it's like, it's kind of funny because it's like the Spurs have been like almost forced into this odd youth movement. And we're very unaccustomed to seeing, I don't know, 3 guys under 25 in the starting lineup or whatever. Like that's a little odd, but Kelvin's been fantastic. He's been absolutely fabulous. I don't know that the Spurs have a more exciting player. I guess Lonnie Walker has flashes of like excitement. We'll talk about him in a second, but Kelvin Johnson was the starting power forward guarding Zion Williamson a couple nights ago. And he did really well. Like Zion's 285. I mean, he's a big dude. Kelvin held his own, and Kelvin fronted him in the post. He worked really hard. And he's getting boards. I'm looking at I think, what is this, ESPN.com right now? Kelvin Johnson is leading the Spurs in rebounds. Is that correct?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Like I think Kevin O'Connor from the Mismatch talked about how fun Keldon Johnson was. He's going to go to the basket. He goes right at you in the teeth. And he's either he's probably going to get a whistle or he might have a whistle that should be blown. But he is relentless. And he did this without a preseason. Like we were just like, I don't know if Keldon Johnson's going to play. It could be months. And then he comes in games 1 and he's Keldon Johnson. He's who we thought he was. He hasn't missed a beat. I still trace my player comparison for him. I still see Russell Westbrook in his game. He's probably a bigger version of Russell Westbrook, but the aggressiveness that he has is very Russell Westbrook-esque. And you're right, he's getting better. I'm starting to wonder how good this guy really is going to be. I bought his Spurs Fiesta jersey, so I'm banking on it. But he's a huge bright spot, and if he can get down, he's averaging 14 in this first couple games, man, and he was about around that range in the bubble. We might be looking at a 23, 25 point career score when this is all said and done. I don't know that he's going to be the type of guy that puts up 35, 40 on a nightly basis, but if you're looking at me and you're telling me the career trajectory for Keldon Johnson is 24, 11, and 8, I'm thrilled with that. That's the all-star caliber player, and he's on that trajectory. I think that he can achieve that. He might have the highest ceiling right now, and every Lonnie Walker fan is going to come for me on this, but he might have the highest ceiling of any Spurs player on the roster right now.
I agree. I don't know if I'm as bullish on the assists as you, if that was the third number you were, if he averages eight assists to go along with a double every night. That's pretty impressive.
that's a strong out, but that's where the game is going because so many people are shooting 3. So if the Spurs continue to chuck him up, the guy, he should have 8 assists. That's reasonable for him if he turns into that role.
And right now, you mentioned how he's grabbed for the first 3 games. About 22% of available defensive rebounds have gone to Keldon Johnson, and that's he's been playing alongside Jakob and Aldridge, who are 6 to 7 inches taller than him. So that's great. I think the one thing that I love about his game that is not Russell Westbrookian.
I like that.
He plays defense.
Yeah.
He plays defense hard. I mean, he plays offense hard. He plays everything hard. I hope it doesn't break his body down. That would be my only after seeing what happened to DeJounte Murray.
There's a better player comp for him. I don't know what it is, but the intensity of Russell Westbrook is what I'm comparing it to. So I'm open to hearing other player comps from you or any of our listeners.
No, I
want to bring that. But you're right. He's got better things than Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, player comps are messy because that's everyone's a little different. But I mean, if he can be consistent with his shot, which so far he has been, I think that's going to, even if he's not putting up like you said, 20 to 30 a night, yet at least, the threat of him being a competent shooter is going to make life so much easier for DeMar DeRozan, Lonnie, and eventually Vassell when he gets even more involved in the offense. Yeah, he's been so fun to watch. I'm a little jealous that I didn't get his Fiesta jersey, but
it's on back order till February anyway. So
I know, right? Next season. How about our boy DeJounte? Because I did predict on the show that he was going to be an all defensive player this year. And I'm actually a little bit nervous that Keldon Johnson's going to take his spot on that team, but he has been very good defensively, and he has not been a problem offensively, which is probably the biggest thing as Spurs fans we could have asked for. He's still not he's not an immaculate decision maker, and he doesn't have the same payoff as Manu Ginobili did in that role of a chaotic passer. He's making a little too many turnovers for me to be comfortable, and it really bites him in games when they lose by only 3 against the Pelicans. I'm not going to put the whole game on DeJounte, but as the primary point guard, he's got to take some of that blame. But he's been shooting well. He's been rebounding. He has not hurt this team.
Yeah, he really hasn't. He's actually been pretty consistent in both his chaos and his levels of, hey, that's a fun wrinkle to DeJounte's game. Like, I feel like we get to see that. I'm really interested to see this next this season out of DeJounte. I think he's kind of he's really the make or break guy out of the Spurs young core. Because the other guys aren't quite ready there yet. We're not really ready to see what Lonnie Walker's going to do or Keldon Johnson's going to do. Those guys are still kind of, I feel like they're almost ready to come out of the oven. But DeJounte, like, we should know by now. And he's actually done really, really well. He's had a couple times in the start of the fourth quarter against the Pelicans game, a little bit in the Raptors game, where he goes down and he's scored like three times in a row.
Yeah,
he gets a little janky layup. He hits one in transition. He gets another floater in the lane or something like that. Those are things. Now, I've been plenty critical of Tony Parker, and I will continue to do so. But Tony was good in that spot. Tony could get you 6 or 8 points in a dry spell. If DeJounte Murray turns out to be a guy who can get you 6 or 8 points in a dry spell in the lull of the third quarter and the slow start of the fourth, that's going to be a very, very fun wrinkle in his game that is going to really, really put the Spurs in a different. They're going to be a different team with that wrinkle, and I'm excited about that for him. And I don't mind the turnovers. I mind Lamarcus Aldridge shooting 10 threes a game. I mind him having lazy effort on defense. I mind Lamarcus Aldridge being, unplayable in the fourth quarter. I do not mind DeJounte Murray having 3 or 4 fourth quarter turnovers. The Spurs are not a title contender. I want to see that. I want to see him make mistakes because I want to see how he responds to that. I want to see Lonnie Walker make mistakes, and I want to see Keldon Johnson make mistakes. Those are the guys I want to see mistakes. So these are good mistakes that are going to benefit you in 2023, regardless of what these teams do. But the most interesting wrinkle out of this race is Derek White is going to come back. And what does that do for, the Spurs starting lineup has been DeJounte, Keldon, Lonnie, and they're going to play with DeRozan and Aldridge. Where does White fit into that, Trace? I really don't know.
Yeah, you could do worse than having Derek White lead your second unit, and that might be the most ideal role for him immediately upon return, especially as he is ramping up to be. I'm imagining that he hasn't been doing a whole lot of conditioning if his toe has been basically unusable for however long it's been unusable. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to have to get back into game shape, and I think we're going to get to see we'll get to see. In that second unit, if you've got, I'd love to see Derek White with Jakob and Vassell trying some things out, and whoever else, kind of.
It'd be fun.
It's a rotate. It's not hockey, so all these players will be like kind of intermingling. But those might be the primary 3 in the second unit. I think Patty's going to take a bigger hit than anybody else when Derek White's fully back.
Yeah.
Also, I just don't think I've loved what I've seen out of Patty so far, but this is not a 70. Like, he's not going to hit 60% of his shots for a 72 game season. I mean, it's a great thing to have while Derek White is out, but I hope that it kind of cuts into Patty's minutes and he can be more of a spot shooter.
Yeah, Patty's outstanding play has been a little bit inconvenient. I don't know what the right word is, but it's like, yeah. All right, what do we do with that? Trace, talk about the next couple games here before we have to wrap this up. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so we've got back-to-back, not in multiple nights, but back-to-back games against they're not back-to-back. I made that up. It's the Lakers and then the Clippers.
Their season series.
Yeah.
They get them all out of the way now.
And then we get the Jazz and I think the Lakers again in that order. So I think the next 4 games are going to tell us a lot more about the Spurs than the first 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Grizzlies were a borderline playoff team last year. The Raptors obviously were a playoff team last year, and the Pelicans were not either. So, I'm excited about what we've seen so far. I'm very excited to see, like I mentioned at the top of the show, like I want to see Keldon Johnson cover LeBron James.
Me too.
I want to see Keldon Johnson against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Oh, yeah. Is it? Oh, good for him.
Yeah,
we're gonna LeBron's birthday or Keldon's birthday?
LeBron's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna get pissed off LeBron for his birthday.
Happy birthday. Here's a block in the back or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to see what Keldon Johnson does against who's he going to be guarding in the Utah game? Joe Ingles, take him down. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to see the Spurs play defense against some of the teams that were the best offensive teams last year, which they haven't had to do yet.
Yeah, this is going to be a real fun test, and I will say this: I know that their defense still has plenty ways to go on this, and they're certainly not an elite defensive team, but short of the one guy that we've already mentioned, they're playing much better defense than they did last year. And again, I got to really sing high praises for Lonnie Walker and the way that he guarded and defended Brandon Ingram. I'm encouraged by potential, lineups that are going to have to switch on guys like LeBron James, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, some of these bigger, quicker guards. I think that they're just set up right now to be so much better. And look, DeMar DeRozan is another guy that we haven't talked much about. He still has his liabilities, but he's actually not doing horrible. James Harden has a role where he defends guys in the block. DeMar DeRozan's kind of done okay with that.
Yeah.
He buys you minutes whenever he has 3 other guys who can switch and a rim protector. So we've talked about this before. He's easy to hide whenever he's in the block, but I'd very much like to see Keldon Johnson get some extended minutes on LeBron. I'd like to see Lonnie Walker get some minutes on LeBron. And then, of course, Donovan Mitchell is another guy that's going to be a problem. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Spurs do. I mean, I look how well they defended Zion, and I'm encouraged by what lies ahead. So I think you're right. I think these next couple games are going to be very telling for what the Spurs can do. They don't have to win these games to shock anybody, but we're going to see some encouraging signs, and it's really important to remember that this season is not about, like, we want them to make mistakes this year. We want them to struggle. Yeah. We want them to have headaches. Those types of headaches are good. We don't want the headaches like Lamarcus Aldridge is bringing. Those are bad, unnecessary headaches. But these headaches like DeJounte Murray having turnovers in the 3rd and 4th quarter, these headaches like Lonnie Walker missing a rotation, Keldon Johnson not finishing at the rim, Jakob not finishing at the rim, make them now. Make them. Yeah. I'm all for those mistakes. I welcome them.
I was just going to say, if the Spurs lose all 4 of these games, but they're fun to watch, I will be so much happier than if they won half of them and it meant watching Lamarcus Aldridge take 23s.
Yeah, and they're just not fun to watch when Lamarcus is on the floor. I feel like he really. I'm sorry, I'm dumping on Lamarcus, and I'm sure he's a great dude, but it's just not fun to watch. So
that's just what it is. Yeah, there we go. Well, Stephen, thanks. It's been it's been good talking about the Spurs with you again. A reminder for everyone listening, you can find our show on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are listening to podcasts, SoundCloud,
YouTube.
And YouTube. Yeah, I hope you can watch our pretty faces on YouTube now. So that's a fun addition to that's a new wrinkle to our game.
Hey.
As we say. Anyways, so thanks for listening, Steven. Great talking to you, and we'll catch you all next time here on Casa De Spurs. Go Spurs, go!
Go Spurs, go!